Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members. Those that know me, and I've been around for a while, know what I think of this particular drug. With my 34 years of experience in law enforcement, I think I actually, with the medical marijuana, which, by the way, is one of the better bills in the country, medical marijuana, that was passed, much to my chagrin at the time. But I did say many times that this was the #1 step towards legalizing recreational marijuana. And now, unfortunately, it has come true. And I'm not saying it's going to pass, but I do appreciate the discussion. Doctor, I'm quite surprised that you would support this, especially in saying that the substance isn't good for you. Coming from a doctor, it just doesn't make any sense to me for anybody to say that. These are just a couple of comments I'd like to make with regards to the testimony. I know one of the parts is that the black market's going to go away. Everybody thinks that's going to disappear. Well, let's look at California. Everybody kind of likes to model themselves, it seems like, or not everybody. Some around here like to model ourselves after California. I have an article here now that's very clearly showing that the governor, who's a DFL governor there, had to call out now the National Guard to help law enforcement in California because they have such a overbearing black market grow operation going on. Law enforcement can't begin to handle it. And this is a state that's had legalized marijuana for some time. So the testifiers are right. They are going onto the street to get the stronger dope. Going from a 3-2 beer to a stronger beer, I mean, as a kid, that's what you did. And it's not going to be any different here. I want to just finish, and I think people are going to know where I'm at, Senator. And the mother very clearly said, and very heartfelt, that we're not made to bury our children. And I delivered that message many times in my life. Doctor, you probably have too. But now I have grandkids, and I have actually a great-granddaughter. And I'm very concerned about the message that we're going to be sending if we should legalize this to those kids. And I think of just the one scenario, and then I'm going to stop, Mr. Chair, is mom and dad at home having a couple of joints for recreation. And I can appreciate that. I understand that. They can have a couple of strong beers or a couple of strong drinks and relax. And maybe having some edibles. And maybe it's been a tough day and we want to relax and we fall asleep and we leave a couple of those edibles on the table, on the end table, and along comes the toddler who's now just starting to walk or maybe has been walking for a couple of years. And anyone in this room that thinks that that toddler isn't going to grab that piece of chocolate or that gummy bear is totally misguided. And I can't imagine what kind of a tragedy we'd have to answer for and have to live with. So I can't support this moving forward, especially with the THC content coming from the 60s when I was growing up and starting in law enforcement in the 70s. We called it ditchweed or Minnesota green back then. The sheriff can probably recognize that term to something now that's very dangerous. I mean, we're talking some really strong stuff here, and that black market's not going to go away. State of Minnesota is not going to come out on the financial part of this. Please don't use children in schools to hide your reason why you want this. It just doesn't cut it. Anybody with any feelings towards children will think that that's just foolish. So thank you, though, for the dialogue. It's great. I think Minnesota deserves a decision today, Mr. Chair, and thank you for holding the meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Well, Senator Jensen.
I would like to respond to that. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Ingebrigtsen. As you may or may not realize, I have immense regard for your perspective, and I agree with you. I cannot support this bill. But unfortunately, I've learned over the last 2.5 years that sometimes here in St. Paul, in order for a conversation to be held, bipartisan support, bipartisan signatures on a bill will make it more likely. When Senator Franzen asked me if I would sign on to the bill, I asked her, what is your goal? And she said, we need to have the discussion. And it sounds like the two of you are in agreement. And I agree with you. I told her I wouldn't vote for the bill in the committee. I wouldn't vote for the bill on the floor. We thought that it might come to HHS, but regardless of where it's heard. But I do think decriminalization is something that should be addressed, talked about. I do think the chemistry needs to be discussed. And I think hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans need to be heard. So for that, I am deeply grateful to this committee for doing so. Thank you.